Prosecutors' star witness Michael Cohen is expected back on the stand today in Manhattan for further cross-examination. The prosecution feels Cohen's testimony has directly tied Trump to the alleged scheme to stifle stories of sexual encounters that threatened Trump's 2016 campaign. Trump is charged with 34 counts of falsifying documents. It's doubtful he will take the stand in his own defense, and if that's the case, this could go to the jury tomorrow. Joining me now is Dalia Fahmy, Associate Professor of Political Science at Long Island University. Professor, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
What can we expect today with Cohen back on the stand?
So Michael Cohen is the prosecution's chief witness against Trump because he's the only one who's been able to directly say he had personal knowledge that the former president knew that business records were not just falsified, but that there was going to be reimbursements made to Stormy Daniels just 12 days before the election. So he's the only one who can directly tie him. Now, court was not in session on Friday, but on Thursday, the defense was able to put some holes in Cohen's argument, painting him as a liar. So as court goes back into session today, what the prosecution is going to have to do is rehabilitate Cohen a little bit and continue to hammer in that the former president did indeed have knowledge of the $130,000 payment. Now, the 34 business records that have been falsified to cover up that payment are also the evidence used, but it's going to require a little bit of rehabilitation of Cohen to present the final case, because today is the last day. We're expecting that tomorrow we will hear closing arguments from both sides.
And that's what gets lost, I think, a little bit in this, is that it's not that Trump has to prove he is innocent, but the prosecutors have to prove he's guilty.
Exactly, and so it's not clear yet that has been met. Although looking at a jury of 12, there's enough doubt. But again, it's going to be based on the closing arguments. The prosecution has been doing a strong job. It's going to be whether the defense can actually poke enough holes, not just in the character of Cohen, but in the physical evidence that's been presented. We have handwritings from Trump's financial leader, and so it's really going to be about whether the holes can be made or patched up tomorrow in closing arguments.
And can we expect Trump at all?
So he has said that he will indeed testify, and this comes from his kind of strongman attitude that I can defend myself, I will be there, I have nothing to be scared of. But it's doubtful that he will take the stand. His allies have asked him not to take the stand, and so it's doubtful that he will. It's not in his best interest to, but the former president is a wild card. It's going to be a wait and see, but it's really doubtful that he will.
And he was back out on the campaign trail over the weekend after his son's graduation on Friday. That's why they didn't have the court on Friday. Is this having an impact on his campaign?
So he was out in Dallas speaking to the NRA and speaking about himself more so. So because there are 88 federal indictments against Trump, he actually cannot purchase a weapon. And so he was using that oppression of the former president of himself as a way to vie for sympathy within the NRA. And so the NRA supporters for Trump were out in full force. This is his base. So he's campaigning not on issues, but on the persecution, if you will, of himself. And so he chose an audience that strategically will fit with the narrative that he is oppressed, that he right now can't purchase a weapon because of all of the indictments against him, and that he promised to repeal the Biden policy of punishing gun sellers that don't follow the rules. And so he's saying that he will indeed bring back more Second Amendment rights. And so he used this moment in Dallas to talk about himself and the kind of persecution of himself in front of the NRA audience, really feeding to his base. And so he's out on the campaign trail, not really campaigning on issues for the future of the country, but on himself.
Okay, Professor, thank you for your analysis. Much appreciated.